This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.
There it is. Yeah, that's it.
All right, I would like to call the July 13th, 2022 meeting of the Easthampton Historical Commission to order. First order of business, public speak. Nobody this time.
Nope.
Okay, we do not have minutes prepared, so we will table those till the next meeting. And item number 4, recommendations for historic plaques from the old schools. Okay, so I'll give you a little background on it, and I think it's just Pepin School, if I'm not mistaken. There is a plaque, World War One veteran plaque. As you walk into the school, it's directly in front of you. It's probably like that, 3x4 or whatever, listing all the, I believe, Easthampton High students that served in World War I. Not sure the dates on it. Anyways, there's that. There's also the there's a plaque for Sarah Chapin, who was the first principal of Easthampton High School. There's 2 World War II honor rolls flanking the auditorium stage. Those are made of wood, not in the best condition. There's also a portrait of Neil Pepin, a painting, and a plaque commemorating renovations at the school in the 1980s, and another plaque commemorating the addition on the rear of the building, which was the auditorium and the gymnasium and the 1934 WPA, I guess. So I actually walked through the school with Mike Owen and Larry Carnes, the maintenance, head maintenance there, and we see if we could find anything else. We did not. Hopefully I listed them all. But so basically, we'll be taking those. Somebody will be taking those, and we kind of need to make some recommendations on where they should go.
How about Old Town Hall?
That's a possibility. The World War II plaques being made of wood would need to stay indoors, I would imagine. The bronze World War I plaque, I believe it's bronze, could probably go outside somewhere. I'm not sure exactly where would be an appropriate place. There is the Veterans Memorial across the street, which is concrete with a brass plaque on it, or not concrete, granite. So like a granite bench.
And there's also on Old Town Hall, there's the rosters, there's some listings on the building.
Civil War.
That's Civil War.
Yeah. I mean, of course, with the renovations that are going to take place over there, that also kind of leaves that a bit uncertain.
They probably don't want to add to it at this point. Is there space at the Veterans Memorial near the library for another plaque?
Didn't you say though that some of them were specific to the building? Were they?
One is, well, 2 actually. One's the renovations in '84, and I think the name change at that point.
I would assume those would stay with the building, wouldn't they?
Well, if they're going to renovate it into something different, probably. I mean, the addition in the back, I was thinking kind of the same thing, like, that maybe go on the outside of the building or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
One in the front with the school renovations, I don't know, school department? put it up on their walls upstairs.
What is it, so you said, sorry, just, there's the one that says it was the WPA plaque
Yeah.
in like 1930s renovation, and that was going from like the one-room schoolhouse to the Pepin schoolhouse it is now, or?
Well, no, it went from the high school, which is the front part of the building, with the addition on the back, which included a few classrooms and the gymnasium and the auditorium.
And that was like WPA in 1930s. And then the 80s, you said there was another addition? And they have
Well, they
another.
renovated it and made it a grammar school.
So the one plaque is actually, or it's two plaques with, or one plaque with two, it's like, with like a second plaque beneath it or something like that?
No.
Or they're like in different locations?
Different locations,
Okay.
yeah. The WPA plaque is in the back. I don't know if anybody's familiar with the building or been in there before.
Been in it, but.
If you go in the back entrance, which you go downstairs, you go into the gym, or if you go upstairs, you go to the auditorium.
Mhm.
You go up, and the plaque is on the wall there, and not sure how to get it off without wrecking the wall.
Right.
I didn't really go around the back of it. There might be a way to get in there, like a closet or something. But there was no, from the front, there's no obvious way to deal with it. The Sarah Chapin plaque is fairly good size. It's probably not quite as long as one of those panels, but at least as wide or high. That right there, I mean, I don't know what kind of room they have at the high school, or something like that. I mean, actually, it'd probably be an appropriate place for it,
Yeah.
I would think, right? Should have taken it right along.
I think anything that, yeah, that could be applicable to
Well,
the new
they,
locations.
I mean, they didn't take them, right? So they went through and took the things they weren't easy to take or that they wanted to
Is that
take
the high school? Or the
for the elementary, middle schools. Oh, so Chapin was the first principal of the high school, but then it
yes.
became the middle school.
Yeah.
Or
And the
elementary
plaque
school.
just stayed there on
Yeah,
the wall
right.
because, it's like easier to leave
Yeah.
it there than move it around.
So I would think we should promote to them that the number one choice would be like the high school should take that.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, I mean, first of all, then we just have to find an appropriate location. It's not, I mean, to me, it reiterates the potential need for something, a place where maybe a museum type collection existed, but that's a subject for another day.
Well, it's not. It's part
Well,
of this that we want.
Yeah, I mean, here we are again with that, and I suppose if we had like a museum,
Well, in most cities, the historical society is the one that takes these objects and
right,
puts them on display or curates them or whatever. And in Easthampton, we have I've never actually met anyone from the historical society.
It's because it's never open.
Right.
yeah.
I was trying to be nice about that. But I mean, it's possible that maybe the last option is to bring things to the historical society, but maybe there's recommendations if things go to the historical society to like increase partnership with the city. and-
Become active?
or they
Sort of.
or they just won't take it
Yeah,
if that's the case.
yeah.
But it would be great to maybe try and establish a relationship. I mean, it's been
Oh, absolutely.
something that I'm sure has changed recently too.
Has it?
Well, I'm thinking that because so much time has gone by, and not to be morose, but also world events have changed such that I wouldn't be surprised if the lineup might have changed. Not knowing details about who that is, but
It's funny though, we wait around for people to move on. Sometimes they just hold on for spite.
they might.
Yeah.
So it sounds like there was some sort of consensus that the Sarah Chapin plaque should go to the high school, that the World War One plaque would go to be added to the Veterans Memorial at the library. Is that?
What is the Veterans Memorial made of?
It It's outdoors, there's a little flagpole, there's some
Yeah,
bench.
but is it stone?
It's funny because the World War One plaque that's in the main hall is actually just listed as the World War.
Right.
Oh, right, yeah, right.
Because it was like, 1920 or something like that when they made it. Look at it.
I don't know what's that monument's made of. I thought that there was like a Korean War,
There's a Vietnam,
But is it incised in stone or is it?
no, it's, well, the World War II, I believe, it might even have World War I. I believe it has plaques on it. Like bronze,
Bronze plaques rather than being incised?
Yeah, but they're attached to stone. I mean, it's a small concern, but the only thing is like, is it gonna be redundant if you put it there? Same names or something.
Or where better?
Well, yeah, I mean, that's a consideration. Same thing would be, Sarah Chapin would be great at the high school. Of course, it's a bronze plaque. Maybe they even put it on a rock or something and put it out the entrance of the high school,
Yeah.
Rocks.
That's the
Where
place where it
people
has
can actually see it,
Yeah, where it has the most context
Yeah.
too, because.
Well, that's the thing, and like I said, when I was looking at these things, people put these up for a reason. It's not like,
Right.
they put them there because they wanted to remember, so, just because it's a while ago, doesn't mean we should forget.
So it looks like there's granite. It's granite and bronze, and then there's these other two.
Can you put it up there?
I try.
You don't have to duck.
That's interesting. Okay. So,
Yeah.
Those look like granite too, just black granite.
Not sure both of those are, okay, yeah, one's Korea, one's Vietnam.
and I think this one says World Wars.
It might be two on that side and one on the other.
Yeah, there was something.
I believe the top are the people that were killed, and the rest are just a roster of people that served. There's also one in front of what's now the American Legion. It was the West Boylston employees.
I think we can see what's there, but I think you're right, Mike, that that's the World War I.
Yeah, a lot less people.
So,
That was probably the original, and then they attached World War II to the back of that. I'm not sure of the when that was placed there, dedicated, but I'm just kind of, the way it's set up, it seems like that would make more sense, right? Yeah. They don't want you to see that house, do they?
Vietnam.
We have that one closer to Korea.
Yep. So, there's not, it would need a new plinth or something to mount it to because it's a building mounted.
One other option, as somebody brought up, was to talk to Kelly Brown about, she's a teacher at the high school, history teacher,
Mhm.
and maybe she could think of something where it would be appropriate, or even use it, you know. Because like I said, I think we got everybody covered right there on both, you know, World War I and II. But you don't really want to have the plaque just go, you know.
Well, could it be, so it's associated with the high school,
It's associated with the high school, yes.
and then it became an elementary school.
Well, it became a junior high first.
So, yeah. So presumably those plaques were people who went and served, or were there people who were just killed?
But the amount of names on it, I don't have my phone with me, so I can't, I'm pretty sure I have a picture of it. Just the number of names, I think it's just people who served that were students at the high school. And I don't believe it was town-wide, I think it was Easthampton High students.
Could they all go to the high school? The
Plaques, the plaques or the students?
Maybe the plaque should,
The-
yeah, I mean,
the-
it's-
Yeah.
it could be a teaching
Go to the
moment.
high
Yeah, well, that's
school.
what I say, you know, I mean,
Yeah.
if we maybe talk to Kelly
Yeah.
about
Talk
that.
about the history and, yeah, make it more like a little garden installation.
You know,
kind of
I mean,
thing, maybe.
I don't know, I never really thought about it, and, you know, or looked to see if there's an appropriate place for them somewhere in the high school.
Well, that would probably be for them to decide anyway, not us,
Yeah,
right?
you know,
So,
you say, right, exactly.
but,
I mean,
yeah, we should promote the idea to them.
That's what I think.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that, you know, especially the, like I said, the Chapin one and the World War One was kind of, you know.
Was there, do you know if there was a corresponding Vietnam and Korean War plaques that were
Did not see
in
anything.
the old high school before we took it down?
No,
I don't think there was anything like that in there at all.
Because, I mean, obviously, people's thoughts on war and memorializing dead and people who went is like changed from 1920 to
Oh, yeah.
1950 to 1970s. And
Probably
like,
all the more reason if it, like in a school setting, it's an opportunity to talk and teach, and maybe better than even if the town was spending taxpayer money to build something out of granite somewhere on town property.
But I don't, maybe the school department had like a, we don't want to glorify war and we don't want to like.
Well, they probably never thought about moving plaques from where they were.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if they don't, then it's an opportunity to talk about that.
Yeah.
Here are these plaques. Let's talk about their history and why they're here. You know.
Right.
Yeah,
I mean, yeah, that's one point. I mean, obviously, the World War II ones, you know, had been there, I'd say probably from the late 40s.
World War II ones you had said previously need to be touched up.
Oh,
The-
yeah.
The lettering on them
'Cause,
is.
well, there's
they're
like,
carved in wood, but the gilding
like-
has come off.
like maybe brass letters that were kind of tapped into the wood or something. Don't look like they're anything real fancy, and some of them are missing and whatnot. But the names are on little plaques about like that long, and those are, you know, legible, and they all seem to be there. So that one, you know, it has to stay indoors somewhere. I don't think it should just get thrown out with the school, you know. I'm not sure where it would be appropriate, you know, historical society, yeah, you know.
Well, again, if the recommendation were that these objects be moved to the high school and reinstalled in a suitable location in the high school, and that they need some repairs done to them before they can be reinstalled, and they're, you know, so it's going to be, there needs to be an appropriation of money to deal with them appropriately, because you're going to have to find a person who can take them down, restore them, and then install them, and that's going to be a few $1,000s, I would imagine.
Yeah, it should be.
But I think
Maybe more, depending on the involvement of it.
But we wouldn't spend any money before we found out where they were going and who was doing what with them, I assume.
I mean, we don't have any money here, it's just a recommendation.
So we asked what was your connection at the high school?
I mean, when Mike Owens asked the historical commission to talk about this, what was his hope that would happen? That you'd report back to him and say, here's what we think is the best use of them, or was he looking for the?
I'm pretty sure that's kind of what he was looking for, or either that, or he's kind of has an expectation that we have a mythical place to keep them.
I think he does not.
Yeah. I'm not, like I said, I'm not 100% sure what the intent was behind it, but I mean, at least what he expects us to be able to do with them. So, trying to remember if, like I said, if there was any more.
There's none in Center Street School.
I didn't walk through Center. I don't think there was anything in there.
And
Except mold.
Oh, nice.
have you done Maple Street? I'd love to be involved in a Maple Street walkthrough.
I did not do Maple Street yet either. I don't believe, I mean, I've been in there before, in every room, and I don't think there's anything with it. There might be.
Did you go
It's
to
usually
school?
by the offices.
Did you
Did I go to school? No.
There?
No. I didn't go to Maple.
I did for junior
I
high.
went to Sacred Heart until high school.
No, I was there for junior high at Maple Street
Yeah.
before my class was the first freshman class in the last new high school.
There was, I think, a Wadika on the World War II board.
My Uncle Paul.
Paul?
He didn't die in World War II.
I'm trying to remember the first name. Paul.
It's the only Wadika that was there in World War II.
That you know of.
From this town, yes, I know. Got shot in Guam, but survived.
That's good. Okay. So, just to kind of wrap this up, so we want to make a recommendation that the Chapin plaque go to the high school? Or
So it sounded like World War I plaque, the World War II plaques, and the Sarah Chapin plaque would all go to the high school
okay.
to be restored and then reinstalled in an appropriate location in the high school.
Maybe even the shop classes.
And then the portrait of Neil Pepin, for which the school's named after, seems like it should stay in the building. It's just like a portrait on the wall.
Yeah, it's just like an oil painting. The kind of funny thing, a little side note, when I met up with Mike and Larry, I think it was Larry going, well, there's a plaque that's got like a person's bust on it. There's, I think it's a bronze plaque, and they're all like going like, what, we don't see any plaques like that, kind of going crazy, right? Then we walked into the other room and it was laying on the table and it's like an oil painting. You go, yeah, I think that might be it. Just how your mind gets so, like expectations are bronze plaques and that's all you're thinking of.
Yeah.
So I was even thinking the same thing, that the Sarah Chapin one actually had a relief of her on it. It really didn't. It's just, the words are.
Who was Pepin in relationship to the city?
He was, I believe, he was a principal.
Neil
Right.
Pepin was
And then he was a
principal, and then he was a
superintendent.
Yeah, when I was in high school, he was a superintendent.
But Chapin was the first principal.
Was the first principal. She actually, I just read this today, so I got a little background on her. She was actually head of the girls' school at Williston until they closed it in 1861. And they stopped teaching girls, so that's when they built the high school memorial, which became Memorial Hall, and she became principal there. I think she started as being like teaching the girls first, and then kind of just came up with all these programs, and she became kind of a superstar of the educational system in town. And she's Mount Holyoke grad also. So, worst comes to worst, I can go to Mount Holyoke.
Well, I mean, I think it's pretty clear to me that the World War plaques and the Chapin plaque would seem to go nicely at the high school.
I would think so, yeah.
And the portrait of Neil Pepin is sort of like, it's a historical object in its own right, in that it is an oil painting made in the early 1900s or something like that.
Oh, no.
1980s maybe.
Oh.
Yeah, probably about the time when they named the school after him.
Yeah.
When was that, anyways? I'm sure I can find it. But
That was probably 70s. In the 70s.
70s, or when they renovated it, maybe?
Yeah.
Because it was Park School before that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because it was.
It was the high school, and it was Park School, and then it was Pepin.
Well, it was kind of junior high, right? For a
All right,
while.
well, it's the 80s. Let's just get rid
Yeah,
of it.
yeah. Well, it's the 80s, yeah.
Stick it in town hall.
Is there
somewhere.
are there any descendants of Pepin in the city that would want it?
It's me.
Because that could be an option if.
Yeah.
I mean, if it's not a historical object in its own right, because it's like an oil painting from the 80s that's.
Well, maybe 70s. I don't remember exactly. He was principal, and then he was superintendent for many years. Many years.
They probably retired in like right before they did the addition.
He might have been superintendent when they did the renovation on it.
Right.
He would have been superintendent when they built the new high school, or the last new high school.
Was he then already? Oh, wait a minute. No.
No, he wouldn't have been then, yeah. He was superintendent later. And I think he was superintendent maybe into the 80s.
That sounds about right, because I kind of remember him, I think, getting the superintendent's job, so I was probably in high school already.
And he
early
was
70s.
superintendent for a long time.
I don't know, we'd have to look that up.
Well, I guess
Family's not a bad option. I'm not sure who, I mean, there's some Pepins around, but I'm not sure which one is related to, or whatever. But I think that wouldn't be that hard to figure out.
probably not. It could, and if not to the family, then that could be given to the historical society.
Yeah.
And then the two plaques relating to the renovations, it would seem that those should stay with the building.
Yeah.
If the building isn't demolished. So maybe the recommendation for those is that the city council add to the RFP that those plaques are to be put in a, moved to the exterior, or like kept where they are, or moved to a new, like maybe the side of the building, like an exterior, if the buildings are not demolished, and if they're demolished, then the plaques go to the Historical Society. I know you like, I know what you're thinking, Beverly. But we don't, I mean, where do we have space for it in the city? Like, our historic archives are the basement of Old Town Hall, in which get even fewer visitors than the Historical Society.
Mm-hmm. I know.
The library's too
the
the library's too small to be taking these things. They don't want it anymore.
right.
Got rid of a lot of stuff.
All the space here. Get rid of this thing, and you can put up a few plaques up there. And there used to be the old picture of was that the first city council, maybe? you remember?
Mm-hmm.
What, is that what it was, the first city council?
And Mayor Mag.
Did somebody donate this? No.
This,
Yeah.
it was out in the hallway for a long time, right?
Yeah.
So, we got our conclusion on that?
I think so.
Yeah, great.
Just pointing out that's item number 2 in 710.
Okay. War One. So, do we have a motion on something like that? Do we need a motion on that? You're the expert.
I mean, you only need a motion if you want to be formal, but if everyone's in agreement and no
Yeah.
one's objecting,
All right.
then I think that you could just say, unanimous consent that the commission did this by unanimous consent.
Well, so
We
come
don't-
up with
we don't-
something and circulate it so everybody has a look at it, we'll like our recommendations to city council and the school department and I mean, obviously, they're probably, hopefully there's somebody that'll respond. Maybe they'll say no, and then we will have to address it again.
Mhm.
Okay, all right, sounds good. So, okay, number 5. So we can keep this moving. School reuse, RFP.
So, my understanding is the RFP's been sent to City Council for the surplusing of the Center School, Pepin School, and the Maple Street School. And it went to City Council beginning of June. It was sent to the Property Subcommittee. Property Subcommittee opened their public hearings on it, or their meetings on it, at the end of June. I don't know where it's at now, if they are continuing to meet on it, or if they've made a recommendation back to City Council. My understanding was that they were trying to get it to City Council for a formal vote for the August meeting. So I think it's like August 3rd is the City Council meeting. And if City Council approves it, then the administration will put the RFP out for proposals to actually be submitted. And then it'll be out there for a while. I think the intent was to have it out there long enough that people would actually have a reasonable amount of time to do the due diligence that they need to do to respond.
That's a mouthful.
Yeah.
Yes.
Do the due diligence that they need to do. Make a note of that.
And I don't know what the timeline is for responses, and then the City Council, I believe, would be the group that reviews those proposals. Maybe they get sent back to the Property Subcommittee, where the Property Subcommittee makes a recommendation back to Council, and Council actually makes the final vote on those. The RFP as submitted to City Council was prioritized, like the highest, the most best use that the reuse committee wanted to see was reuse of the existing buildings for affordable housing. If developers wanted to demolish the buildings, they were subject to additional, there were much more community benefit that they would need to do in order to sort of bring that proposal to demolish a building above a proposal that proposed to keep the existing buildings.
Why wasn't the Historic Commission involved in this?
I
process.
believe that there was, Tracy, were you on the reuse committee for a minute?
Yes.
Yeah.
You are.
So I think that the historic commission was, there was like, it was a big group. It was like, I mean, maybe you can say more about it. I don't know how much you were.
I mean, at first I was in it, but then, I don't really, what I was concerned with when I was gonna do that, those buildings have been around for a while, so why not reuse them for other purposes? Why demolish them and then put up something that totally ruins the landscape of the town?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that was my initial thought. Use it for affordable housing, art space, whatever.
Right.
You can do some retail too.
Right.
Yep.
So I think that, I mean, the reuse committee seemed to hear that loud and clear from, I mean, so this was all based off of that large downtown strategic planning
Right, yeah, they had some
program that we
meetings
did,
on
and
that,
got a
too.
lot of community input, and it was really clear that like there were two main camps of people. The folks were like, these are part of our history, we don't want to demolish it, we should reuse it, sustainability, all these things, reasons why we should keep the existing structures. And then we had a very vocal but smaller group of people that were interested in demolishing the buildings for parking.
No.
And so I think that the reuse committee basically came up with their criteria for rating the proposals that come in. You'll get, if you're doing affordable housing, you get points. If you're doing reuse of the building, you get points. If you're doing demolishing the building, you get negative
Yes.
points. And then you can, if there were community things that were public benefits that you were proposing. So let's say, someone was planned to demolish the building to build a parking garage, right? The public benefit, the public benefit would be minimal, right? So it wouldn't happen. But if the reuse was, to demolish it to build a brand new library complex, maybe that public benefit rose up above above that so there's like a complex rating system, which is to say that's what the RFP was, how the RFP was submitted to City Council, and I have not followed it through the subcommittee meetings, so it's possible that the subcommittee could make changes to that proposal or make recommendations to that, or they could just say, we've heard from lots of people and we've decided that we like what the reuse committee said and we're going to send it along as is with no major changes. And so if going back to the previous item on the agenda about if there are plaques that we think should stay at the buildings, then that should probably get added to the RFP. And the timeline for that is very quick. So.
Do you know who on that committee?
Well, right now and the reuse committee is sort of done. They're done what they needed to do.
Committee.
It's property subcommittee, and then it goes to City Council. And again, I don't know if they resolved that matter at the first meeting or if they continued it.
There's basically 3 buildings,
right?
Pepin School, Center School, and Maple Street School.
Correct. And the RFP is structured in such a way that a developer could come in and make a proposal for 1, 2, or 3 of the buildings. So by themselves, none of the buildings are quite big enough to have to do an affordable housing project by themselves that's economical for a nonprofit developer. to build the units, because a nonprofit housing developer building affordable housing needs to get a lot of like historic tax credits or affordable housing credits, needs to work with DHCD to get housing subsidies and things like this, and their programs typically target 40 units of housing creation, and anything less they just don't bother with. And most of the buildings, they're large, but you'd be able to get about between 20 and 30 units in each of the buildings. So the idea was that maybe a developer would say, we could do 20 units here, 20 units here, and 20 units here, and that's 60 units in total, that then raises it up to be a larger project that gets those subsidies. Whereas a for-profit developer can, do whatever they want and charge, $1 million a unit or whatever, and get their money back. A nonprofit developer is like limited to rents that just never really on their own will pay for those costs of redevelopment. I think the carrying costs for each of those buildings is about $200,000. I mean, the carrying cost for all three buildings is about $200,000 per year. And that's just the cost to like heat and electric and water usage, and like other maintenance, like maintenance issues. So
Yeah.
they're big buildings that need a lot of work, and
True.
so that's the long of it, I guess.
Yeah, and we need parking.
And and so,
in some ways, yes, but there's ways around that.
right, and so some of it, like the Maple Street School has a large parking lot, and there's a playground, and so one of the community benefits is, maybe the developer decides to keep the playground for the community, or make the playground better, or take some of the parking and allow, people to use the parking that's there.
Right, a municipal lot adjacent to it.
Yeah. So there's a lot of options for what a developer could do. But like I said, I think the reuse committee was quite clear in their recommendation to city council through the RFPs that it was reuse of the existing buildings and affordable housing.
Okay.
So
All right.
I guess long of it, just
Pretty much it?
yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
If the historical commission wants to be part of that, I would recommend just looking at the agendas for the property subcommittees to see if it's still on the next property subcommittee agenda. I can take a look. But it'll be on the city council agenda until that public hearing.
Okay. Just a side note, with all that going on up there, with manhole covers and all that, they didn't get any of the old Easthampton Foundry manholes. You'd think they would have at least, I think that one actually might even be one there, but it's got so much asphalt on it. It seems like a popular style.
Where was the foundry?
Right over here. You know where Phillips Manufacturing is?
Yeah.
It's right, like adjacent, where there's apartments there now.
Okay.
So what I see, there's the June 27th property subcommittee meeting, open the discussion on how to best dispose of the following city-owned properties. that was the most recent agenda filed for property subcommittee. The most recent city council was the July 6th meeting, and that just shows that it was that's still under property subcommittee. So
Okay.
keep an eye out for agendas.
Okay.
Go to those meetings. If I
What would you say, that was June what?
June 27th.
For the property, right?
Yep. And you know, the previous property subcommittee meeting was February 1st. So they don't have a lot on their agenda.
Yeah.
We don't need on.
I don't know, when they did not say that their next meeting will be, when their next meeting will be.
Okay. Okay. About town lodging house update.
Um,
Anybody know anything?
Okay, so the city had contracted with SMOC, Southern Middlesex Opportunity Council, to run the single room occupancy lodging house from about 2006 through, well, they would still be doing it now, but they decided the building was in too poor shape to continue renting out the units, so they terminated their lease with the city and found new places. They relocated all of their existing tenants to other properties in Easthampton and in the region. So that building is now empty, no longer being used by SMOC and back in city control. So we are sort of building operations, mayor's office, planning department are working to try to figure out a way forward with that building. Short term is protecting the building to make sure that it can, that it won't deteriorate further. And longer term is trying to figure out how to best reuse that building. It has affordable housing restriction on it, it has historic preservation restriction on it, and it has open space preservation restrictions and agricultural preservation restrictions on it. It is very complicated to reuse, or you know, we can't, there's about, we did a capital needs assessment on the building a few years ago. It showed about $1.5 million worth of just code and like safety upgrades, like just like regular maintenance needs for that building. It probably needs more than that in order to bring it up to like a facility that's actually that people want to live in.
Does it have to be live-in?
What's that?
Does it have to be a live-in facility?
Well, by the terms of the affordable housing restriction, yes. The only
Can it be a museum or,
no, until the affordable housing restriction expires,
which is?
I believe it's 2031.
It's not that far away.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, but I mean, it probably costs
Oh, yeah.
$50,000 a year to keep that building
Yeah.
up and running. Just, you know, just even if not anything more than just making sure that the heat is on a minimum level, so as, you know, the water's running. The boarded up the closed up buildings don't. They don't fare well. Like, and you know, they become attractive nuisances very quickly.
Especially that located away from the center of town where it would, you know, certainly be.
But it is in a residential neighborhood, and like the neighbors all care for it and want to see, like, when in the 2 months between when SMOC sort of left the building and before the city took full ownership of it, we were getting complaints that the grass wasn't being cut, things like that, someone was like, called the fire department because they heard alarms going off in the building. Apparently smoke detectors were beeping because the batteries needed to be changed. So like there are people who are paying attention, they care. So, and now that the city has taken full ownership of the building again, we've got, doing the maintenance, mowing the lawns and things like that need to happen. But again, it's a complicated property, and probably needs a lot of, it definitely needs a lot of work, interior and exterior, to keep it.
I think in our files, there's a whole history of it downstairs.
Yeah.
I would imagine, right? It's on the National Register?
National Register,
So
historic
I'm
places.
sure it's got a whole story.
I was just looking through the files today, because we're working with Valley CDC. They got some money from the CPA committee to find a site in Easthampton for affordable housing. And at the time, this property was being rented by SMOC, and it wasn't something that we were considering. But they are looking into it as part of that project now, is just to see like what it would take, what's feasible there. Again, there's 23 units. They're all single room occupancy units, which is like a very different style than a traditional, like what we're looking at Center Maple and Pepin are like standalone units, 1, 2, and 3 bedroom units that have each their own independent, like they all have their own sinks and showers and bathrooms and kitchens and all that. Whereas the single room occupancy is like, it was a boarding house, there's
Yeah, it was.
just a room, one shared kitchen, one or two bathrooms on the floor with like, maybe 1 or 2 showers in each bathroom or something like that. It's communal living. And those types of units, those types of buildings just, people frankly don't want to live in that type of housing. So we're seeing what we can do with it and what the costs would be. And in the meantime, we're trying to take as best care of it as we can.
Okay. Item number 7, demo delay bylaw. Okay.
Just gonna pull up the current version on the screen there as soon as it loads.
Like we're done with it.
That's just the default. Okay. I don't recall where we left off last time.
I think we've gotten past these sections here.
I think we were
Yeah.
in the procedure.
Yeah.
Can people read this, or should I keep some?
I can read it.
It would be bigger.
Create a form. I think, is that where we stopped? looks
No,
like
I
it.
think would it be helpful to just review where we're at, to just step through this, or do you want to just continue?
Just continue.
Okay. So we talked about, actually, I think it's important to step here because, so the commission or designated member of the commission shall make an initial determination as to historic significant building. And then we had some questions about what that initial determination, how that initial determination shall be made. And so the first 3 bullets are pretty easy and clear. So it's either listed on the National Register of Historic Places, it's in a cultural resources inventory form, or it has been determined by a vote of the commission to be historically or architecturally significant. Then the last piece, it's in whole or in part built 50 years or more age prior to the date of application, and any of the exterior of the structure, either in whole or in part, is proposed for demolition. So it would accept any demolitions for interior work. So if you wanted to have an old building, but you're going to gut it to redo the interior, then like that's negative. But any change to the exterior would have a and I'd seen in other ordinances for other communities, people say 25% of the exterior. But I think we had some discussions about like how do you determine what 25% is? If 25% is the front facade facing the street, that's very different than 25% that's all rear facing that no one ever sees. So we thought for the initial determination it should just be any exterior, you come to the commission, and then the commission can make the determination later whether or not that actually needs to be a historic, a demo delay.
Right.
So then 3 is negative, 4, if positive, schedule a public hearing within 45 days. Previously that had been 30 days. Then all of this stuff is new. The sub bullets of 4. The sub-bullet in red here was, I stole from another city's ordinance.
Yeah, it's actually pretty good though.
Yeah.
I guess my only question there would be how do we prove his expertise? You know?
I think we can cross that bridge later.
And I'm just, like I said, it's the only thing that popped in my head when I'm looking at it, going, well, how do we know he's an improvement expert?
Everything else looks pretty
Yeah.
well defined and
Yeah.
spot on. And I guess that's how we worked out who would be notified there in section 3.
I don't think 300 feet is wide enough area.
But then we added, or any other persons as the commission shall deem entitled, so that's a minimum, not a maximum. Right?
So the note was increased distance or rephrase of butters and of butters to butters. Okay, so, oops, sorry about that. Don't mean to get anyone seasick here.
All depends what's around, where you are.
Right, that's what
Yeah.
I think 300 feet is.
You're talking,
Not a big area.
that is the minimum, so.
Right, and the plains, 300 feet does not get you, it gets you the abutting properties and maybe one row out. So like, in the plains, the 300 feet will get you 10 to 15 close properties. But in the downtown business district here, 300 feet is gonna be 80 people, 80 different property owners. So,
So should the default be more is the question.
Am I-
300 feet is like the standard under zoning. It's a standard for a lot of notices. I think that combined with number four, that having a sign on the property, I think that's honestly the most, that's how you're gonna get the most attention to the property. That there's a sign in front of it and people drive by it and see it.
A lot of times these signs aren't big enough when you're driving by to be able to see it.
Well, that's
No.
what we're defining though, that it will be, because we're the ones that say what the sign looks like, how big it is, what the font is. Meaning we're making it a point to make sure it isn't some little 8.5 by 10 inch.
Well, there were big signs about the fireworks. There was a big one in front of Underwood's old stand, and the type was fairly big, but I had to pull in to read it, because and it was a big sign. It was like this big. But
Well,
it was
I don't think that
hard
we
to
should.
read if you're driving by.
I don't think that if the standard is driving, like that the wording on the needs to be visible or legible while you're driving, then we're basically mandating billboard size signs on every property when there's you can only get 20 or 30 words on a billboard, and those things are huge if you've ever actually stood under one.
What I might suggest we do is, first of all, if there's something standard about the sign, like it's always a certain kind of yellow, it always has a certain logo, if we can make an association with, oh, that's the demolition sign, people just know. That's what that means.
Or,
is
you
that-
could have one word, demolition, and then everything else,
Yeah.
they add their own stuff. So
Right,
somebody
something-
sees that and go, oh, wait a minute, what's going on with that?
Right, so that because the clear intention is to make it evident to anyone who would be interested, right, to whom it may concern, that this will be potentially demolished or substantively changed. So, part of my hope is that not only is whatever and it's left to us to define that, but whatever the definition of that sign is, its whole function is to make it really clear. And I don't know, I agree, I don't know that we can have every word readable from the road.
Well, not every word, but
But
to make it
whatever the
obvious.
primary,
Yeah.
Emphasize the word demolition.
I mean, I would like, I guess my thinking on this would be, it would say something like, this property is proposed for demolition. Plans and like plans available online and a website.
Easthampton.
And then it's something where we can have a couple of these signs made up, they can be put out, and they don't need to be, they don't have to have all the details, because anyone who's interested would go, oh, okay, let me look this up and see what's going on. And so there'd be a little, go to easthamptonma.gov/
I wish there was one on the corner near my house a while ago.
yeah. Well, we've taken our time with this one, and maybe if we're lucky, we'll get it done before 2024.
Well, this looks good so far. I can't, but myself, do you all see anything that looks out of place or needing alteration?
So owners of all properties within 300 feet. So that would mean, we could say owners of all properties within 300 feet of the affected premises and abutters to those properties, or, and I think it's easier just to say anything within 300 feet.
About 5.
How do you feel?
What's the difference?
200 feet.
I know that, but I'm
Yeah.
just
Just
saying.
like that, yeah.
Do you think that causes a significant problem? Does it mean that there's some,
No, it just means that like any building in the downtown is just gonna have, it'll have twice as many notices going out, and we do postcard notification. It used to be that we'd require like, return receipt requested or whatever, so that was quite onerous and expensive. We're just doing postcard notifications these days that just say,
That's what we did for years.
so let's say 500?
okay.
Okay.
Okay. So then 5. So, any comments here?
That all passes by my read as well. I think I'm on to 6 without comment.
So we got 24 months.
Mhm.
So I had some comments in here that we needed to expand number 2 there.
What does it need? What's wrong with it?
I just have a note that it says flush this out, so like I thought it needed some more detail, or like what does it mean to actively market the property?
I think, who was it? Stockbridge have that fleshed out pretty good in theirs.
I mean, I'm okay with leaving it kind of vague if you guys are, or we can flesh it out. But
I would leave it the way it is right now.
okay.
Yeah, I don't-
And maybe look into it a little bit more by what that really means, so we can kind of hold it against them later.
I don't know, I mean, actively market doesn't seem too ambiguous to me.
No, well, it kind of does in some ways where, okay, it's been on, I'm listing it, but I'm not really making an effort to,
Okay.
they could say, well, yeah, it's on the market,
So what about then instead of worrying about marketing it, to actively seek
is the words we're looking for, something like seek an
Also,
alternative purchase?
I was just recommending to leave it like it is now, so we can kind of
Okay,
research
yeah, I'm all
it,
for
research
that.
it a little more, and if
Sure.
it needs to be tweaked, then, because
Okay.
I can't, right now, I don't have anything to
Right, I
to
guess
look
that,
at, you know?
yeah, and I think along those lines, there are many property owners in Easthampton that we can all think of in our heads that have had buildings or lots or properties for sale for long amounts of time and just only, like, they're like, we need $3 million, we need $5 million for this vacant site, or, you know,
Yeah,
like,
right.
and so if you have a building that's worth, like, it's assessed at $300,000 and you're listing it for $1 million because you're,
Yeah, you're actively marketing it, but you're not,
At your price.
Reasonably.
you're not reasonably
Yes.
seeking it, yeah, okay.
um,
Yeah, all right.
So,
but I mean, maybe a realtor won't take that up, I don't know. And combined with number 3, if we force the applicant to come monthly to say, you know, what are you doing? What have you done? Who's marketing it? Who's listing it? You know, maybe that's enough.
Yeah.
Okay. At the end of demo delay. Oh, sorry about that. And then this came from the city solicitor 2 years ago.
Which part?
So looks good.
The at the end of the number I, number 1 there, 701.
I'll give this a thumbs up.
Yeah, yeah.
And then
Now,
so
as this is written, I just kind of want to kind of throw this out there. So if we put on a demo delay for 24 months and we require them to come back every month or every other month if it's, you know, seems more appropriate. And they come back with like, listen, we did X, Y, and Z, and, you know, I mean, it's a reasonable price and blah, 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 but nobody wants to touch it. And we want to move our project ahead. I mean, is that reasonable? Or,
That's-
you know, are we gonna, you know, I
That's-
guess it would be up to the commission, right?
Right.
I mean, it would be up to a vote.
Case
but-
by case.
Right.
basis.
Exactly, that's what we're gonna do.
But that's something that's kind of like allowed in this language as it's written, right? So if, like, even after 2 months and the guy comes in and has got a pile of paper, go like, listen, this is what we did, and, you know, it's not gonna sell.
Seems unlikely we'd be convinced that
Right,
8
2
weeks
months,
was
yeah.
sufficient,
Well,
but.
that's true,
But
you
if
know.
we all agreed and passed it with
Well,
a,
that's what I'm saying, you know, it kind of, you know, it's like, wow, this is, you know, yeah, you're right, you know, you're probably not gonna find anybody because they found whatever, it's haunted, you know?
right.
Yeah, okay. All right, that's, just, kind of trying to wrap my head around, how,
Yeah.
how this would operate, so.
Yeah, well, that's the tough thing about these is, getting the language so that nobody's got a loophole to jump through
Yeah.
and that we didn't hog tie ourselves and end up
Well, yeah,
creating
that's the other
some
thing.
onerous hoops to jump through.
Because if it's say like, well, no, we gotta keep this for at least, I'd say, get a maximum of 24 is there a minimum? 6 months or a year? Or,
Well, my reading is that what
what
we've
is it now?
done
Is
is,
it 6 months?
Right now, it's a year.
It was 6 months.
6 months.
Used to be 6 months.
I'm sorry.
We've been kicking this around for so long.
nobody knows.
Yeah.
Well,
I
and.
think it was 6 months.
Yeah.
It was 6
I was
months.
gonna bring that.
My interpretation is what we're doing is creating floors more than ceilings anyway, so that what we're doing is allowing a halt to happen more readily by default in the case of any doubt. And then we can always lift the barrier and let them on through more as a result of everybody going, okay, yeah, this will be an exception. But the way it's written, it means that one day when it's not us at this board, that presumably things will by default stop if they were the kind of thing that we would presume would be significant and won't stopped and looked at. I think, I'm pretty impressed with the language. It seems to me like it's pretty rigorous without being onerous.
So I guess from my point of view, the things that's missing is what happens after 24 months if the commission's not satisfied?
That's, that's
Like,
where
so-
it gets,
but like-
it
so
gets
like-
sticky,
Like, so it's a 24-month demo delay. And like if it just expires because no one's paying attention, let's say property owner comes in, does the demo delay, so 24 months, and they never report back to the commission. And then 25 months later, they go and say, well, demo delay's expired, and they go to the building commissioner, and the building commissioner goes and says, yeah, you're right, it's been 25 months. Okay, approved.
My
So-
thinking would be that the language should say that in that case, the default is re-ups for another, if it's not satisfied, it keeps going until we're satisfied. The point would be
I
if
just-
somebody doesn't do anything, then the default should be, nope, you're at a stop sign. And you're at a stop sign until you provide the, as written, necessary
I mean,
documentation.
it does say it, that the
I-
building inspector may issue it if the commission is satisfied.
Right, if we're satisfied, great.
Can the building
Green light.
commissioner legally do that anyways, even without our permission?
I can see over 24 months that someone could let the building deteriorate
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
and then
Well,
say,
yeah.
I thought we had upped it from 6 months to 12 months. I don't know, when did the 24 months come in?
We're just going for, I mean,
I think the idea, at one point we talked, I don't remember who was present at what meetings, but I think the conversation was, if we end up at 12 months, the commission would be happy.
yeah.
But the proposal to bring it to city council would be, let's ask for 24.
And
If
see
they,
we
if they,
get
maybe they'll
12.
knock it down to 12 or 18, but like,
Okay.
let's start the negotiation with like
Yeah.
some,
Go for the max.
Big
yeah,
amount.
so it's a big number, and then,
I mean,
because if the commission has the power to extend it, then really, it's like.
it'd be 6 months is fine then.
Well,
yeah.
6 months is annoying.
Well, it
It's
is.
it's not even enough to stop a developer, because it takes
It's gonna
them 6 months just to get planning board approval sometimes.
Right.
Um,
Yeah. Right, that's 6 months.
But my thinking is, well, that if what we're trying to protect against is demolition by neglect, that
Which
then,
we've run into in the past.
right, which everyone does. Every
I
historic
think-
commission I'm aware of is
Right.
a major concern. So, my thinking is, and correct me if I'm wrong, but my thinking is, if they didn't do anything, your question is, let's say they just ignored it all, right? And if as I'm recommending, then the default is, well, you didn't do anything and we didn't change our ruling, so boom, another 24 months. And if that keeps happening, that incentivizes strongly people not to demo, because that could go on, and we don't care how long it goes on. Go 10 years, go 12 years.
But
If
at-
you
at
just
some-
are letting it
at
demolish.
some point, they will be able to get an engineer that says this property is so neglected and.
I'm just wondering if there isn't a way to make that a
Yes,
punishment
there
for
is.
neglect.
There is, and that's a separate ordinance.
Okay,
After this one, it's called the minimum maintenance ordinance.
okay.
And the EDIC has started to do some of that for the downtown business corridor, and that's currently Ordinance Subcommittee is like doing this minimum maintenance thing. And so at some point in the future, after they at least gotten an initial pass and approval on it, if it's an ordinance, then we can see if that minimum maintenance ordinance makes sense for historical commission purposes, and we can ask the ordinance committee to like review that later.
When is it gonna go beyond city center?
I don't think that the EDIC is not concerned with this as a historic.
Well, I'm
There-
talking about things like Oxbow Sports down below my house, which
Yeah.
has been, the roof is falling in and,
Yeah,
Yeah,
you
and
know.
that structure should be
should
taken
be
down.
down.
Looking at it now, and it's becoming like an old Mayan temple where the jungle is growing up around it.
So,
But yet they're
so,
still paying taxes on it
Yeah,
because,
because
you
they
know,
figure it's a valuable location.
it is a valuable location, and it's
a
only,
property, you know, a tax
and the
write-off.
only way you can reuse that property, it's like too small to be built on, except if you use the existing structure or the existing footprint and.
So the question was though, what do you do if after 24 months, they didn't do a damn thing, but we're all able? What is the default that will happen? What will kick in automatically by the language of the ordinance?
Well, hopefully the building inspector says, we just got the demolition delay request from the applicant, I still haven't heard back from the commission, are you all satisfied or not?
Right, I was gonna say, is the easier solution not to assume then some default to re-up it, but that it comes back to the commission?
I mean, I would think that it should come back to the commission, and I would think that the building commissioner should have a note in their file that says, this building is under historic commission demo delay. and-
Right. So it seems like the language would be fairly simple and straightforward, that, because you were saying what you thought it missed. So what it's missing is some sentence along the lines of, if after the completion of the 24-month and it has not been satisfied, then the commission will review, then it goes back to the commission for review
Okay.
and has
My
to be determined
battery just died.
thumbs up or thumbs down. It's still showing, that's interesting. How did it still, are you still scrollable? No, okay, so it's just a frozen.
It's just like,
Are we near
Does
the
that mean
end of
the meeting's over?
Well, it's going on 90 minutes, so.
yeah.
It is 8 o'clock, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, all right, I guess my last comment on the demo delay, or a question, the fire chief and the building inspector actually could trump us anyways, right?
Yeah, so the way that this is written, I believe, Mike, do you have the most recent copy of that, the printout of it?
Yes.
I
believe so.
believe what it says is, for intent and purpose, the ordinance is enacted for the purpose of preserving the buildings. To achieve these purposes, the Easthampton Historical Commission is empowered to advise the building inspector with respect to the issuance of permits for demolition of significant buildings.
Where is this again?
It's the first section, intent and purpose.
Oh, okay.
So,
Oh, yeah, okay.
so the way that I've always kind of interpreted this is that the building commissioner is empowered under the state's building code to issue building permits and demolition permits. And they are under city ordinance being asked to take historic structures to the historical commission. But at the end of the day, it's still their determination and it's their decision. And they can do, you know, they can say, you know what, historical commission, you guys are crazy and this structure needs to come down. And I don't care that you don't think that this engineer is worth their, you know, that this engineer doesn't know anything about, you know, historic reuse or whatever. And I look at this building and it needs to come down. Or the fire chief says, this building is a safety hazard, it needs to come down. And they're gonna just take the advice and throw it out the window and do what they need to do.
Well, I mean, it was kind of similar to what happened on Main Street with Moriarty's house there. Like, you know, basically told that, no, you know, we're not keeping this house.
Right.
Building inspector's gonna have them tear it down anyway, so no matter what you decide. Which, you know, so I mean, it kind of does tie our hands a little bit, so even if you want to say indefinitely re-up, they could, you know, finally step in. Of course, there's also the owner's ability to say, well, we're going, taking you to court.
Right.
You don't really want to do that either. And days are occupied right now. All right, so you're gonna hold right there, let me make a note of exactly where it was.
Are we getting near the end? Is that what it is?
About halfway. Right?
Yeah, I mean, so it's really just enforcement remedies, severability, review and appeal,
I mean,
and
do you
renewal.
want to wrap this up next month and have it ready for it?
That would be great if,
I think it's be
I mean,
a
I think
worthy goal.
I think it's close.
Yeah,
I don't know if I didn't hear much from anyone here today about that it really, I mean, it was that this is way off from what people are expecting. Correct? So.
No, it's good.
Looking very good.
It's spot on.
yeah.
um,
Yeah, and, you know, I think the strategy of going, you know, asking for 24 and hoping for 12 is probably the right way to go. So where do we stop? Initial determination.
remedies. 10, I guess, was building commissioner may issue a demolition permit after receiving advice that the commission is satisfied that there's no reasonable likelihood that the owner or some other group is willing to purchase, preserve, rehabilitate. The commission is satisfied that for at least 24 months, the owner has made continuing bona fide reasonable efforts to locate a purchaser to preserve, rehabilitate, and restore the building, and those efforts have been unsuccessful, or upon acceptance of the plan for partial demolition of the structure, the commission is satisfied with the proposal to keep intact the historical parts of the building
So
and
number 8.
incorporate them into new structure, or will be rebuilt in a historically appropriate manner. And I've been reading in the Mass Historic listserv, there's been some discussion about whether or not whether or not demo delays go with the property or transfer or end with ownership. And my recommendation is that we do not make these go with the property, because our ordinance says if you find someone who's willing to take on the building, then like that's remedy, right? So like you can end the demo delay if you sell the building to someone else.
Right.
And then presumably that new owner would then
Be free
not,
of the demo.
but they would then need to go and like, they wouldn't be, if they then proposed demolition of that building that they just bought, then it would come back to the commission and it'd be a brand new 24-month demo delay. And it wouldn't be something where a new owner could purchase the building and like 6 months have already gone into the demo delay, and now they only have 18 months left.
Right. You can't-
Because the whole point of it is that they're buying the building to preserve it,
Right.
not to then
Right.
hasten the demise.
I noticed in that conversation, it went either way for some towns. So,
Yeah.
sometimes it went with the property, other times it went just the owner.
But I think it makes sense to just be the
I
owner.
think so too. Because, number one, if the guy sells it to somebody else and then they say like, okay, I only got 2 months to wait out this demo delay and then I can take the thing down,
Contrary to the purpose.
Yeah.
Right.
So this way, he would have to reapply, and now you've got the whole conversation's opened up again. All right, so we'll take it from there. I wouldn't think there's too much on the canal at this point, right?
I haven't heard anything.
Okay, neither have I. No items reasonably anticipated. All right, meeting schedule, just very quickly. I know I'm going to have a couple conflicts on the second Wednesday of the month, the next September, December, maybe even sooner. So opening it up, if you want to move to a different day or a different week of the month. What are we talking Tuesday or Monday or Tuesday?
Mondays, so for me, Mondays are
Mondays are good.
fine.
That
Um,
second week in August is out for me.
Well, so-
Different place.
Can I just redirect for a second?
Yeah.
Tracy, I know that you have a busy work schedule
Mhm.
and you haven't been at a few Wednesday meetings. Is there a better day for you?
No, that should be fine now.
Okay.
Wednesday should be fine.
So you, and if it changed to a different day, would that make it more inconvenient?
Tuesday wouldn't be bad either.
Okay.
Tuesday or Wednesday are fine.
Tuesday and Wednesday are fine for you. And then John and Beverly?
Tuesday and Wednesdays are fine.
It depends when the schedule is at the institute in the fall.
Okay.
In terms
I mean, then
of
you also,
Tuesdays, because I had a Tuesday evening class.
if you like we said before, if you have a week that's conflicting, you
Yeah.
can always
Move
change
it,
the
yeah.
week.
Like I said, I know definitely September and December are already, something that I can't move.
Right.
And I really don't want to miss for, this, so, I mean, we can move those days, or we could, move to the first or the third Wednesday.
Keeping it as is for me works the best, and making an exception for the ones that don't work. That would be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I guess my preference is to keep it on, I mean, so right now we're second Wednesdays. And if that works for everyone here, then my preference would be to keep it second Wednesdays, but then when you have a conflict, let's go to see how the first Wednesday goes. And, because Tuesdays are,
It's not me.
Tuesdays are hard for me.
Yeah, I understand, I mean, it's.
I can like, occasionally I could, if we needed to move things around, I can occasionally make a Tuesday work. But I wouldn't want to like commit to having it, to making a new meeting
I was
schedule.
gonna suggest Sunday at 6 in the morning.
Great, then you won't find me there.
No, Wednesday should be fine. They should be fine.
So when was so August 10th?
August 10th should be okay, I
And-
think.
I
Okay.
won't be here. Walter's getting his hip replaced August 9th,
Do we want to go to,
but that's okay.
Could move it up or move it back.
well, we can't go to the August 3rd meeting. We can't go to August 3rd because,
I just won't come, that's no problem.
well,
Because he may be at my house in rehab for a time also, so.
Well, they send you home right away now.
They do, but that doesn't mean anything.
so we could go to the August 17th. If that would be better for you, Beverly?
I don't know at this point, until we see what happens.
Okay.
Last time he had a hip done, he was in rehab at a nursing home for 2 weeks, and then he was at my house for 2 weeks. Just sick.
So August 10th then,
Let's just do the 10th.
Let's just do the
And then-
10th, and then,
Right. September will definitely have to move.
all right, so let's talk about that while we have Beverly here in case that she can't make it for the August
I
one.
don't have a calendar in front of me, so.
Okay, so September 14th would be the regular meeting date, which is the second Wednesday.
Okay.
It's fine.
But you said, Mike, you can't make that one. Could we push back a week to go to the 21st?
Yeah, that'd be fine with me. Okay with everybody else?
Yep.
Yeah.
First, and then the other one is December. We can play that by year at this point.
Yeah, let's deal with that in November.
Yeah. Well, yeah, or October,
Or
as
October.
we get a little closer.
Yeah.
All right, bless you. All right, anything else? All right, do we have a motion to adjourn?
I move we adjourn?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
8:14. Wow, good job.
Awesome.
Yeah, very good. I'll go to bed.
Casey, do you mind turning off the camera?
Sure.